We're going to do another movie review tonight, and it's not one that you would have thought we would actually want to watch, but we did it for you. And why did we do that for you? Because we're just good people. Unfortunately, the people in this video are anything but. We're doing the movie Heaven is for Real. Ugh. I had to sit through this thing. I had my puke bucket nearby just in case, and I did have to use it quite a few times, actually. So if you're planning on renting this movie or going to go see this movie, let me save you some money and some time. Don't. The story, basically, this kid supposedly has an out-of-body experience. He goes to heaven, and he sees Jeebus and all this other stuff. There was a lot of problems with the story. And now there's a spoiler alert now. So if you don't want to hear anything, turn off your speakers right now. For the rest of us that, don't want to actually have to endure the nausea of having to watch this movie, the kid supposedly comes back to life. He goes, well, I saw Mommy making phone calls. I saw you yelling at God in the church. The story is basically of a Midwestern family, supposedly. And then you find out, oh yeah, right off the beginning. Within the first 8 minutes, or actually first 11 minutes of it, there's two sections of child indoctrination right off the bat. I mean, I'm against child indoctrination all the way around, but push all this garbage onto children, I think, is appalling as a parent. And there was some other parts in here that I just thought were just crazy, as it were. But there was a point where the child goes to the doctor. I mean, as a parent, I felt for them for that point, because the fact is, you don't want to see your kid in pain or whatever. And that part was, that could have been anybody. Anybody. That could have been us. It could have been them. It could have been anybody at all. And if you're a parent, you have children, you understand that. But then they throw all this extra garbage on top of it. It's just total bullshit. When the reporter shows up, asks the kid about Jesus, says, yeah, I knew it was Jesus because he had markers. It's like, what are you talking about? He had like crayons, markers. No, he points to his palms, and he goes, yeah, he had markers here, and he points to his feet on the bottom. It's like those kind of markers, which all Christians, well, not all Christians, but most Christians get wrong, because the simple fact is, Jesus was not nailed through the fucking palm. If he had been, his body would have fallen off the cross. When they nailed him to the cross, he would have been through the wrist, not through the palm of the hand, which doesn't make any sense. So right off the bat, the whole story is completely fabricated. The reason why I say that is because he supposedly gets all this stuff right about his grandfather, the robe of Jesus, the color, and all this other stuff, and all this detail. He gives all the specific detail, but he gets the one important detail completely wrong. I call it hoax. Connie, your thoughts?
Well, we found out that Jesus has a rainbow-colored horse, so Jesus is a brony. I did not know that. I accept that the kid probably, near-death experience or, traumatic experiences, you can imagine a lot of things. You can see a lot of things. I think the kid probably literally saw things, but the family tries to say, well, these are things that he couldn't have learned in Sunday school. His father was a pastor. His mother was the leader of the church choir. Their life is absolutely immersed in this small town in things of faith. At one point, the father goes to the kid's bookshelf, pulls off a Bible with all of these pictures of Jesus in there. There's no way that he's not exposed. He goes with his father to the hospital to pray with sick and dying people.
Right.
And he's a smart and intelligent boy. People make the mistake with children of thinking that just because they're sitting there and they don't feel like they're not paying attention, or you don't think they're paying attention, doesn't mean they don't absorb a whole lot of things. And the fact is that every single myth about, that we see in religion are things that they're I'm sorry, I think there are things that we're all born looking for. We're born with this, until we know what we know, until we actually have knowledge, we tend to fill in the blanks.
Right.
This is like, inserting frog DNA in so the kid, he's inserting stuff. To me, I just go, why is his father so dead set on saying that this story is real? And it's because they had financial crisis.
Yes.
The dad's working. He's a pastor. He's a contractor. He's a volunteer fireman. He's also, coaching the wrestling team. He and his wife both had appendectomies. He's had kidney stones previously. They have a child who was miscarried. So that they've got bills, and the town's a small town, and the economy's hitting it. So You know,
they make
they talk about their money.
Yeah, and they make that abundantly clear right at the beginning.
Exactly. And so, you know, I'm going to quote the movie because at one point he goes to the bank. He's talking with his best friend, who's also one of the board members at the church, and he says, Todd, you know, Burpo says, I never wanted to be that guy in the pulpit asking for money. But, you know, of course he's not of his friends and family, not of the 2,000 people that live in the town with him,
right.
Because if he bilks them, he's going to be run out of town on a rail. Much better to go ahead and write a book and just go ahead and fleece millions of people across the country and justify it by saying, this is a feel-good story, I'm making people feel better. His one question was, why does this have to be a myth? Why does heaven have to be a myth? And my question is, why does your son's dream have to be real?
Right. You know,
I mean, I had like 6 pages of notes. There's so much that could be talked about. This movie is, he's disingenuous. I think he might sincerely believe what happened here. I could even give the Burpos this. If they really sincerely think that this happened to their son, that's fine. If they think that they're doing good, I suppose I understand. But I really think that they are lying to themselves and lying to other people.
Oh, so, yeah. I agree. There was
I apologize for talking too much here.
That's okay. There was one section there that I did find kind of funny, where the girl, his sister, is in the playground and somebody hits him with their ball. You know, she gets hit in the back, which I think was kind of low for the other kids. And being a kid that I was picked on when I was a kid, so I understand all that. She turns around and she wails on him. She punches them both in the nose, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" You know. You hurt me. Oh, they're both crying. She's sitting in the living room, or the kitchen rather. She's coloring or whatever she's doing, and he gets a phone call. It's like, he goes, "Did you hit somebody?" She goes, "No, I hit 2 people." I thought I told you to turn the other cheek. I said, "Yeah, well, they did after I punched him." I mean, that was the whole funniest part of the movie. Do I suggest going to see it for that one segment? Fuck no. Dana, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, there's nothing like a little piece of Christian violence to, violence begets violence. Basically. Yeah. No, I don't have a lot of funny things to say about this movie because the movie is such a head shaker. Really, it's a classic example of religious propaganda, and who knows? See, it's the movie of the book. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a funny feeling like this whole story is basically like combination of what Connie said and some very strategically placed coaxing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But you're meant to think in the movie that it's all legitimate for 2 other reasons. These are the other 2 things that for the believers would be like what I would like to call the aha moments. Mm-hmm. Like, aha, you see, it is real. There's a scene where the kid he doesn't technically go back to heaven, but he kind of goes back in his own mind. And then there's this little girl standing on the playground, and she gives him a big hug. Well, we come to find out, I mean, I knew what it was right away, but basically what the deal is, he goes to his mom and he says, "Mommy, I have a sister." And she's like, "Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. She's sitting in the living room." And he goes, No. I have 2 sisters. I have one, and then I have the one that died in your tummy. And then, of course, Mom's like, "How could you possibly know that?" Wah, wah, wah. So basically, he's seeing like the incarnation of the miscarriage. And then Mom, who had been kind of like straddling the fence and actually at one point had come out and said to Mr. Burpo, which still makes me laugh every time I say it. She says, says at one point to him, she says, "No, he just remembers a lot of her son." Basically, so she's kind of like the skeptical one. And then after the reveal of the miscarried baby in heaven, mm-hmm. all bets are off. She's like 100% on board.
Right.
And then the other aha moment is, he goes into, okay, so he's talking about like his dead grandfather, mm-hmm. and the kid comes in and is like, "Yeah, well, he was there. I know exactly what he looks like." So he grabs a picture. He grabs a picture of an old man with glasses on, and the little kid goes, "No, silly. Nobody in heaven wears glasses." And the one thing that went through my head was what you were talking about, Packard, which was like, well, what nobody wears glasses, but Jesus still has holes? I don't understand that. But anyway, so the big aha, it must be true reveal for the intensive care contingency is when that picture doesn't work because he has glasses on and the kid, obviously no one in heaven has glasses, but he digs deep, like he's like throwing all this stuff around, going, oh my God, the picture's got to be around here somewhere, and he goes down into like the deep recesses of underneath things and pulls out this old cabinet, and he opens up the old cabinet. You're expecting like dust to come out of the old chest. And
did you notice that was a carpenter? Did you notice? He
pulls out the pictures, and he like flips up. He's like, do you recognize him? And the kid's like, that's him.
Yeah.
And then
did you recognize?
There's no way the kid could have seen that picture because it was buried and it hasn't been pulled out till now.
Did you notice that where he pulled it out of? It was the wooden cabinet thing there. It had hammers and things like that, carpentry stuff. So it was basically a carpenter's box. So yeah, a little more subterfuge. Is like, oh my gosh, it's the whole Jesus experience. It's the carpenter. Jesus was a carpenter and all that other crap. So. And not to mention,
See what I did there?
Yeah. Not to mention, he goes to see this woman who is an atheist. She goes, "Well, what do you think this is? This about your faith or about mine?" Because that's what he was like bouncing these questions off her. The typical atheist, cold, calculating. Oh, I can give you natural explanations of what happened, and then as soon as he's walking out the door, drops a logic bomb on her. Well, it could be something just mysterious, and then walks off, and you never get to hear a reply. I'm like, what the fuck ever, dude.
There's so much, again, there's just so much. When he goes and visits her, she says, oh, you're that preacher from so-and-so. Her dead husband, who was a believer, said, you need to go to Imperial, Nebraska and hear this guy, and this guy Burpo is really good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet you dollars to donuts that if this person actually existed, if it wasn't just written and fictionalized for the movie, that the Burpo, the preacher, he actually knew this professor's husband.
Right.
And so it was no accident. And one of the things Burpo says to her is, asks her why heaven is harder to believe than telepathy. I'm thinking, what kind of a professor did you just go to see?
Right.
Telepathy? Are you kidding? Mine, I did.
Tarot cards.
Well, and how was I supposed to think that the kid grew up not knowing that there was possibly another child that she lost? It was late term miscarriage, and you see a scene in the movie where she's pulling out all these baby clothes and crying over them. Again, kids don't notice this stuff.
Right.
And as far as the pictures that Dana's talking about, I was thinking, okay, why he didn't just pull out a bunch of random pictures of people. He pulled out specific pictures from the family albums of people and says, is this the guy? Is this the guy? No, when you do a lineup, you don't just show them what you want them to see. And then how much of a resemblance might there have been between the grandfather and Todd Burpo, the dad?
Right.
The kid's he's impressionable. It was a leading question that sorry.
Yeah. Joe in the chat room, he goes, the only atheists I see in movies is when they get hit by cars in the end, and that's when they are played by Kevin Sorbo. So
spoiler, I didn't know that. He's the angry atheist.
He's the angry atheist.
Yeah. Because professors do that.
Yes. Professors always get killed at the end, especially when they're atheists.
That's right.
Anyway, anybody have any last words on this?
Okay. Huffington Post article, interview with Todd Burpo, fully gives at least 10 things. If you want to know more, read the book or see the movie. In that one-page article, I sat there and I counted them. I'm going, every single time he talks, he's like, see the movie, read the book.
Right. Yeah. My daughter gave me the Rotten Tomatoes review on this, and it was like a 46, which was under 50, I guess. I don't know. And apparently, so that's really bad on there. So it's not a good movie. Save your money. Go do something else. Go watch if you want to see something interesting, go to the laundromat, put your clothes in there, and watch that for an hour. You'll have more entertainment, honestly.
Circular logic.
It's certainly circular.